Hey everybody, Roy Cannaday here, and today I'm taking a look at Marvel Champions Age of Apocalypse. Let's get right into it. Alright, so there is a ton of stuff to look at in the Age of Apocalypse box here, so I guess we'll start with the heroes, Bishop, and Magic. Alright, let's start off with Bishop here. Of course, this is Lucas Bishop. 4 recovery, temporarily displaced. Response: after you change this form, add a temporal card from your discard pile to your hand. That's awesome. Hand size of 6 and 12 hit points. And if we look over here at the Bishop side, he has 2 thwart, 2 attack, 1 defense, and then energy absorption. After Bishop takes any amount of damage from an attack, discard an equal number of cards from the top of your deck and add each resource card discarded this way to your hand. So he'll be able to, as he takes damage, he's going to be able to throw resource cards into his hand. And so let's take a look here. He comes with some resource cards of his own. This is Stored Energy, and it has a couple different icons on here. Pretty awesome. So you actually get 3 of those in the deck. So these are cards that could pop into your hand as you take damage. That's awesome. And then Bishop's Rifle. This is a 2-cost upgrade. Restricted after or hero action, exhaust Bishop's, it's an attack. Exhaust Bishop's Rifle. Choose an enemy, deal 1 damage to that enemy for each resource card in your hand. This card attacks gain ranged. So that's awesome. So if you end up having a bunch of these energy resources in your hand because you've taken damage or because you've saved them from different round to round, he also has tons of resources in his hand. He can exhaust this to deal damage to people. Then Bishop's Uniform. This is a 2-cost upgrade. After you resolve Bishop's energy absorption, exhaust Bishop's Uniform. Heal 1 damage for Bishop for each resource card in your hand. So as you gain more of those resources, he's also going to be able to heal. That's awesome. Then a supercharged upgrade here. This costs 0. Action: discard 1 resource card from your hand and place 1 charge counter on it for each resource icon on that card. So like this would actually add 2 there. And then a Hero Interrupt. When you make a basic attack, discard supercharged. You get +2 attack for this attack for each charge counter here to a maximum of 8 attack. So even just discarding 1 of these for a 0-cost upgrade would give you +4 attack, which is amazing. So you can make him get up to 8 attack pretty easily with that. So that's a lot of fun. And then Command Authority. This is a 2-cost event. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. If you paid for this with a resource card, draw a card. Awesome. Then Concussive Blast. This is a 3-cost event. Deals 6 damage to an enemy if you paid for this event with a resource card. Ready Bishop. So you'll be able to ready him to be able to do some more action. I really like this card as well. And then Energy Conversion. 0-cost event. When an enemy attacks you, shuffle each resource card in your discard pile into your deck. You cannot take more than 3 damage from this attack. This is awesome, especially because when you take damage, you're going to be able to have those back in your deck, and then you're going to be able to draw them back into your hand. Super cool with that. So you get a couple of those. And he has a couple allies here as well. We have Randall, 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 1 consequential damage on each. And then action: discard a resource card from your hand. Ready Randall. If that card has a printed like energy icon, heal 1 damage from Randall, limit once per phase. So you can basically use this guy a couple times and you can heal him up as well, which is really cool. And then Malcolm, it's kind of the opposite of that. 3-cost ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack, so he's better at attacking. Discard a resource card from your hand, and Ready Malcolm, if he has a printed fighting icon, heal 1 damage from Malcolm, limit once per phase. So he has 2 of these allies, kind of like one that is good for attacking, one that's good for thwarting. That's pretty awesome. And they both trigger off of his Stored Energy card. Then Cable here is a 4-cost ally. 2 thwart, 1 consequential damage, 3 attack, 2 consequential damage. After Cable thwarts and defeats a side scheme, draw a card. So he can draw cards as you're defeating side schemes. The next 23, 3-cost ally, 1 attack, 3 damage, both 1 consequential damage. After X23 attacks and defeats an enemy, ready her. That's awesome too. So you can be like, going after it. She can knock out some minions. And then Sidekick. This is a cool upgrade here. Attached to an identity-specific ally you control. So that would have to be your Malcolm or Randall here. And then attached ally gets +2 hit points and is your sidekick. After you make a basic recovery with your character, you can heal 2 damage from the attached ally, so they can heal as well. So that's awesome. So you can keep that ally in play. And then side by side, 2-cost event. Ready your sidekick hero and choose one. So if you have this Psychic on there, you can ready them and then choose one. You can either heal 1 damage from both characters. Both characters get +1 thwart and +1 attack until the end of phase. Awesome. So you have 3 of those. Lead from the front. 2-cost event. Choose a player. Each character that player controls gets +1 thwart and +1 attack until the end of phase, basically boosting up all of your characters that you currently have. Then suit up, search your deck, and discard pile for an ally, an upgrade that can be attached to that ally. Add them to your hand. And this costs 2, but the fact that Bishop's going to be having so many of those resource cards, he can do really cool plays with things like this. So he has suit up, 3 of those. Then team training, 2-cost support. Play under a player's control. Each ally you control gets +1 hit point. That's always awesome. And then advanced suit, 0-cost upgrade. Attached to an X-Force or X-Men, max 1 per ally. After attached ally defeats a minion or side scheme, discard 1 card from your hand. Heal 1 damage from attached ally for each resource on that card. So giving you a way to heal up your allies again, just being able to keep them in play. Then Power of Leadership, we've seen this before. This is a resource card though, so it can trigger off of Bishop's things there. And this doubles the number of resources generated when playing Leadership. And then we have Legion here, is an ally, costs 3, 1 thwart, and he can trigger something, and then 1 attack, and then he can trigger this down here. Response, after he makes a basic thwart or attack, discard the top card of your deck, and then depending on the resource icons on it, he'll have different effects here. So he can deal 2 damage to an enemy, remove 2 threat from a scheme, or heal 2 damage from Legion. So being able to keep himself in play there again, that's cool. And then Maro here, 2 cost ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 1 consequential damage on each. Then play only if you have X-Force or X-Men. A lot of these X-Men have that. And then after Maro enters play, deal 2 damage to an enemy. So cool, so she's gonna immediately deal 2 damage to an enemy when she pops in, and then you could be like, oh, I'm gonna do another 2 damage. So Maro's pretty cool, but she only has 2 hit points, but for 2 cost, I think this one's awesome. And then of course you have the basic resources, which are really great in Bishop. And then we have the obligations, which I don't like to go too much into this, because sometimes I like to be surprised when I draw this stuff. But you have him and then his Nemesis minion here. And there's new ways for the Nemesis to come out in this with Standard 3, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that is all of the stuff for Bishop. All right, we also have Magic here, which of course on the other side here, Ilyana Rasputin. This is a 3 recovery, interrupt. Once you change to this hero form, choose a spell in your discard pile and put it on the top of your deck. Limit once per phase. That is our alter ego. And then on this side, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense. Play with the top card of your deck face up. Once per phase, you may also play the top card of your deck as if it was in your hand, reducing its cost by 1. So you can play the top card of her deck for cheaper. That's awesome. And let's take a look at a few of her cards. 1 cost upgrade. Of course, you could play it for free if it was on the top of your deck. Mystical Armor. Magic gains Retaliate. While this card is on top of your deck, or while the card on the top of your deck is a lightning or wild resource icon, Magic gets +1 defense, so boosting yourself up based on the things there. And then Soul Sword here, 1 cost upgrade. Magic's attacks gain piercing. While the top card of your deck is fighting or wild, Magic gets +1 attack. And then Magic Crown to upgrade. Magic gains steady. While the top card of your deck is a science icon or wild resource icon, Magic gains +1 thwart. So all of these, depending on the top of your deck, if you have them in play, will give you different stat boosts. And then we have a support here called Limbo. After the villain phase, exhaust Limbo, swap the top card of your hand to the top card of your deck, hopefully allowing you to trigger certain things like that. And then exhaust this to swap the top card of your hand with your deck. So depending on whether you're in the villain phase or whether you're in the hero phase, you can do that to basically manipulate the top of your deck. And then 1 cost event here, Stepping Disc. Hero action, ready your hero. Choose a magic card from your discard pile not named Stepping Disc and put it on top of your deck, allowing you to not only prep yourself for having the right icons on the top of your deck, but also being able to hopefully draw into that card super soon. So you start with 3 of those, and of course readying Magic for 1 seems good to me. And then 1 cost event, Magic Barrier. Hero interrupt defense. When the enemy initiates attack against you, prevent 3 of that damage. If the top card of your deck has a lightning or wild resource icon, deal 3 damage to the attacking enemy. Cool, so you can hit them back as they hit you if you have the right thing on the top of your deck. And then Exorcism. This is a 2 cost event. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. At the top card of your deck has a science or wild resource icon. Confuse the villain. So being able to set up that top of your deck again, she's all about that. Soul Strike, here's a 2-cost event. Deal 4 damage to an enemy at the top card of your deck. Has a fighting or wild resource icon. Stun that enemy. Very much like Exorcism, but for damage and stunning. And then Scrying here, this is a 0-cost event. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Draw one of them, discard one of them, put one back on the top. Awesome. And then we have Colossus, a 3-cost signature ally here. 2 thwart, 1 consequential damage. 2 attack, 1 consequential damage. He has toughness. Of course, it's a Colossus. He's got to have toughness. Then interrupt. When an enemy attacks you, play Colossus from your hand, paying his resource cost and declaring him as the defender without exhausting him. So you can just pop into play early to help you stop an attack. And then Gold Balls here is an aggression card for her. She's aggression type. And then 3-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 consequential damage, 1 attack with an asterisk, and then 1 consequential damage on that as well. Interrupt. When Gold Balls attacks, discard 3 cards from the top of your deck. Gold Balls gets +1 attack, where X is the number of +1 attack, +1 for this attack, where X is the number of cards discarded this way. Discard up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Gold Balls gets X attack, this attack, where X is the number of cards discarded this way. Oh, so you could discard less cards if you wanted to. I was kind of like, why would you not discard all of them? I would almost always discard all of them, unless you're trying to set up some other sort of combo. But Gold Balls here is going to be giving you extra attack. I didn't realize you could do a certain amount of cards. Okay, then Tempest here, 2-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack. Play only if your identity is X-Men. When the villain would scheme, discard Tempest, cancel that activation, do yourself 1 face down encounter card. So hey, you don't like what's coming up or you get messed up by that, you can get a different encounter card. Full body charge, let's do some damage here. This is a 4-cost event. Deals 8 damage to an enemy. If your hero's remaining hit points are less than half your hero's starting hit points, this attack gains overkill. So just a big old damage dealing event there, but does cost 4. 2-cost event here. Deal 3 damage to an enemy. If this is the first card you played this round, return it to your hand, which is always good for being able to hopefully play more cards. So you get some of those. And then Blood Rage, 1-cost upgrade. After you defeat an enemy with a basic attack, exhaust Blood Rage and take 1 damage. Draw a card. So taking damage to help you draw extra cards. And then Test the Defenses. This is a 1-cost upgrade. After you play an attack event, place 1 test counter here. If there are 5 test counters here, discard this card and deal 5 damage to an enemy. It's an upgrade that can allow you to do extra damage if you've played a lot of attack events, which is cool. And then Power of Aggression, double the number of resources this card generates while playing aggression cards. Always good for getting those out into play. And then Basic Spell here, this is a 2-cost event. Play only if your identity has the Mystic trait. You can heal 3 damage from an identity, remove 3 threat from a scheme, or deal 3 damage to an enemy. Basically super versatile. And it is a spell, so it is something that Magic can put back on the top of your deck if you wanted her to. And this is Spiritual Meditation event here. This is also a spell. Play if your identity is the Mystic trait, draw 2 cards, choose and discard 1 card from your hand, hopefully allowing you to get the correct cards you need or maybe change up the top of your deck as well. And then Blood Gem, this is a 0-cost upgrade. Play only if your identity has the Mystic trait, max 1 per deck. Resource, exhaust Blood Gem and take 1 damage, generate a wild resource. So, take 2 damage and generate a wild resource. So if you really need to, you can take damage and get wild resources, but it is a basic, so basically anybody can use that, but well, anybody who has a Mystic can use that Blood Gem. Then Stepford Kakus, I don't know how to pronounce. Anyway, 3-cost support. Play as your identity has the X-Men trait, uses 3 psi counters. Interrupt. When a player reveals a treachery, exhaust them and remove 1 psi counter here. Cancel the effects of the card discarded. That player reveals another encounter card. So if you're just getting really bad encounter cards, you can mix them up. And you can do that 3 times. That's awesome. And then we have another ally here, 1-cost, or 2-cost, 1 thwart, 1 attack. After they enter play, heal 2 damage from an X-Men character. So awesome, healing people up. And then we have your obligation and your Nemesis minion and side scheme, which I like people to be able to discover these on their own as they come out and things like that. All right. So I don't like to go too much into depth on how all of the campaign stuff works, because I feel like that's one of the best parts about these campaigns is discovering that stuff on your own. But I will talk about a couple of the new aspects with this. And let's take a look. One of the things you get here in the Age of Apocalypse campaign is the Standard 3, which you can use in anything instead of the regular standard set. And this is going to be a standard set that's going to make your Nemesis come out more often. So Pursued by the Past environment. This is a permanent setup. This starts in play after you place a pursuit counter here. If the number of counters here are equal to at least 3 more than the number of players, remove each counter here. If your Nemesis minion is in play, it activates against you. Otherwise, flip this card over. And if you flip this card over, it says after you flip this card to the side, find your Nemesis minion, reveal it, search the set aside area for your Nemesis side scheme, reveal it, and then shuffle the remaining set aside Nemesis set into the encounter deck. So normally your Nemesis would only come into play with Shadows of the Past. This is going to be forcing your Nemesis to come in play once this gets more of those counters on it. And as you can guess, all of the treachery cards here for the most part are going to be place 1 pursuit counter on Pursued by the Past. This one, if you boost it, still puts a counter on Pursued by the Past. And they do a little bit of kind of what the normal standard stuff would do, like making the villain scheme against you or making the villain attack you. But it's going to be adding those pursuit counters. So normally you would be able to avoid Shadows of the Past. This is kind of like forcing Shadows of the Past to come out after a certain amount of time to end up wrecking you. So if you want to play the game and have that Nemesis have a chance of coming out more often, then this could happen. If your game goes longer, if your game goes shorter, then you never are going to end up having that random Shadows of the Past pop up on you like it did normally in the regular game. But this is another standard set you can use if you are interested in maybe seeing the Nemesis pop up a little bit more often. The next thing here that's new to the campaign is missions, these little side missions that you're going to basically be sending your allies on. So the way this basically works is each round of the campaign, you're randomly going to get one of these side missions, and you'll randomly get one of these overseers, and they'll kind of go into play, and then they'll kind of do whatever they have on there. A lot of times these are going to be based on the player count. It's going to be how difficult they are. And then the first player will be able to have this team mission thing here. And then you can exhaust this to choose to reduce the cost of the next ally played to the mission by 2. So you can play allies to the mission. Basically kind of like a little side mini game that your allies are going to be sent on. And then instead you can make a mission attempt, which is where you exhaust this. And then any allies that you had, so let me give you an example here. So let's say we had our magic deck here, and then we had a couple of allies on the mission. And then we would basically say, okay, these guys are sent to the mission. Very important for this, for the minigame here, is the resource icon on the actual allies. We could exhaust this mission to make these guys do their thwart and attack to the side scheme and the overseer. But we would have to reveal a card for each one and hope those cards match to be able to do it. And then they'll also take consequential damage. So hey, this would be even better. If this matched him, then it would basically do 1 thwart to the main scheme and 1 attack to the villain here. And you're basically trying to match that stuff up. And the mission attempt thing here basically explains how all that works. But basically, if you complete the mission, you're going to get opportunities to get different rewards for the campaign. And if you fail the mission, then different bad things will happen, like the bad guy can come back and haunt you and things like that. But yeah, that is kind of how the mission attempt works. It's basically like a side thing that kind of like preoccupies a lot of your allies, in some ways making it a little bit harder as you're doing the campaign. Of course, you if you're not doing the campaign, you can play against all the villains regularly, but this is kind of like an interesting side thing of being able to send your allies out on missions. All right, so I'll just talk through all of the villains real quick. So Eunice here, he's going to be basically building up different eye tokens on this gene pool thing here with the infinites. He's going to be boosted based on the amount that the gene pool has. Also, all the infinites are going to be boosted by the amount that the gene pool has. So you need to continue to keep this down. But after any ally is defeated by anything other than consequential damage, you're going to be placing 3 more on this. So it's going to continue to get stronger. and isn't going to leave play because it's permanent, and he's going to get stronger and stronger as that goes along. The four horsemen of the apocalypse you're going to be facing all at the same time, and they're all going to have different effects when they activate against you. And none of them can actually die until all of them have no hit points. So they're all going to stay alive and continue to activate against you. And of course, they have different stats, and they're going to be doing different mean things like, oh, discarding the top cards of your deck, or after death attacks you. He deals 1 hit point to each character you control. So these guys are just going to keep activating. Even if you've done enough damage to knock them completely out, they're still going to be activating against you. And that is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So there are 2 apocalypses you have to face in this campaign. It is the Age of Apocalypse after all. And this apocalypse, whenever you kill him, he's going to immediately heal back up, and you'll take some threat off of this main scheme. So how do you actually win the game? Well, there are going to be all of these overseers that you had before are now going to be the prelates, and basically you have to make Apocalypse realize that he's not worthy by defeating all of these minions first. Not all of them, but each time with these side schemes will put one of these minions into play. Once you defeat the minion, you're then allowed to thwart the side scheme. Once you thwart the side scheme, it will flip over and put another one of the minions into play that you then have to beat before you can mess up the side scheme, and then another one will come out, and it keeps getting worse and worse. After you've defeated 3 of these minions, then it will heal back up Apocalypse, and then you can actually deal damage to him. But if the main scheme fills up, Apocalypse is going to be getting stronger and stronger the whole time, so he can get worse and worse, getting more and more dangerous. And of course, he's upgrading himself. So when you defeat him, you do remove some of the upgrades that would be on him, but you can't actually defeat him until you defeated all of these big, gigantic minions. And then lastly, here you have Apocalypse that you're going to be facing off against, who actually has different forms that as you reveal from the encounter deck, let me actually get the correct ones here, but as you reveal from the encounter deck, whether it actually triggers or whether the boost here, it can change the form. So you have Biomorph form, you have Cyberpath form, and then you also have Giant form. So he will be changing up and having different abilities based on which form, and regardless of whether these things are revealed as like actual treacheries or are revealed as boosts, they're normally going to be changing up his form each time, and things are going to be triggering when he changes his forms on you. And the cool thing is, like, each different version of him, whether you're playing on standard or expert, is going to have the folding cards for all 3, which is pretty cool, and it's just cool and exciting to see those different folding cards. So Marvel Champions is one of my favorite games of all time, and I love the X-Men as well. So the fact that they've come out with more and more stuff and more campaigns to get into, I just love all this stuff. And it's really cool to play as Bishop and Magic. Bishop is kind of cool with the fact that he's pulling all those resource cards out of deck. He can have really bombastic turns, as after you take some damage, you get some extra resource cards, and figuring out how to combo all that stuff together is a lot of fun. And he can play really big things because he has those resource cards that he's getting more readily. And the Magic, trying to figure out how to manipulate the top of your deck and playing with the top of the deck revealed all the time is kind of interesting, like how to mix that up. And the fact that you get a discount for playing the top card of your deck, but sometimes you want to play it off the top of your deck just to change the icon because that's going to combo with some of her other stuff. That's also exciting as well. I always love having new heroes to play in Marvel Champions, and it's cool when it's like, feels like, oh, energy absorption, as Bishop takes damage, he's being able to do this stuff, and Magic is casting spells and being able to kind of manipulate how things work. She has stuff that also manipulates the treachery deck as it comes out, so she feels very magical. I just love the theme that they put into this game. And the campaign as a whole is a lot of fun. The one thing I will say is I don't know how I feel about the missions in general, just because it feels like a way to kind of like, oh man, my allies are going out on missions and they're not helping me with the main plot, and it ends up making it pretty difficult if you're sending all of your allies over there, because even though you get a discount with your whole team mission cards and things like that, it also is hard because you don't have allies helping you on like your main mission there. So you have to kind of balance that as the game goes along. I found myself a lot of times ignoring the side mission and then regretting it later as it was kind of messing up the rest of my campaign because I wasn't completing that stuff. But I really enjoy the variety that all the villains gives you. I mean, anytime a big box of Marvel Champions comes out, I'm going to take notice because I love having new things to face off against. And some of these I'll just be able to put out and play against. It's like, oh, do I want to play against the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse? Or, oh, do I want to play against a Apocalypse that's changing stuff up? And then playing against Apocalypse where he has all of those minions that you're facing off against before you can actually really fight him. It just feels so different. And I love the fact that even with just decks of cards, Fantasy Flight and the team there has been able to continue to make this game just feel so different each time you play all these different things, and I just really enjoy that. So I've had a blast playing with all the Age of Apocalypse stuff. And another thing that's interesting too is like I love the fact that there's another standard set put in here, not only because one, you need the standard set to play any villain. So it goes into every single villain deck you play for the most part. And you have to have that. So having another one of these means I can have more villains built at the same time. But also this is technically the first box that if you had tokens and you downloaded the PDF of the basic rules, you could kind of play it by yourself. I don't know if I would recommend that because it's going to be starting at an advanced level. But say you have a friend that you've been playing Marvel Champions with for a long time. Maybe they have extra sets that could give you some tokens, or hey, you could just use dice. I mostly use dice. I have some plastic tokens I use from buy the same token. So I use this sort of thing. You could get Etsy upgrades for the tokens and then just have just this box. And this could kind of be your starting point. You would have to download the basic rules if you don't know how to play the game already. But I do think that's kind of cool, the fact that this is the first time they've ever released a standard set and heroes and villains together. They have standard 2 that comes in, like, I think Red Hood that you could technically have, but you can't play that by itself. You could technically play this by itself as long as you had tokens and dice or something to be able to track hit points. But I do like the fact that that standard 3 is kind of forcing that Nemesis to come out. And if you enjoy like seeing the actual heroes play against their actual Nemesis and seeing what that matchup would be like, then that is kind of fun. There are some heroes that have Nemesises that if they come out, you basically lose. And Shadows of the Past could be terrifying with that. Like if you're playing Phoenix and then Dark Phoenix comes out and just wrecks your day, that could be terrible. But it is interesting to have that option to be able to play the game with another standard set. That's really cool. I think for me overall, this is definitely a 9.5 for the whole box. I love it. I love the heroes in it. I think it's fun. I think this is one you should definitely look at picking up if you're into Marvel Champions. And you don't have to get Marvel Champions stuff in order. Like say you have the base box, but you're really interested in these characters, or you really want to play through Age of Apocalypse, it'd be cool to face off against some new villains. You could go ahead and buy this. I mean, you definitely have to play the game on standard because you're not going to have all the stuff to beef your stuff up, but I like playing the game on standard. I've beaten most of the stuff in this with just the stuff there. I did lose a few times, but I've played the game a ton, so I normally play with just the basic characters. I love Marvel Champions. I've continued to love Marvel Champions. This is a blast to play. Excellent, and that is Marvel Champions Age of Apocalypse. Let me know in the comments down below what heroes you're currently playing in Marvel Champions. Let me know if you deck build a ton or if you play it super casual. Like how deep do you dig into the game? I love the community that there is for Marvel Champions. It's just cool seeing so many people still excited about the game. And honestly, this is the best product I think that Fantasy Flight makes. So keep making it. I love it. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, you would love to game with us at one of our conventions. Check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. Fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Bassel.